think we'll start. My name is Robert Valente. I'm from aParent IVF here in Chicago. Some of you may have been in the room when I introduced aParent before, so I won't go through all the details again. But I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to learn a little bit more about our intended father center offering. Now, I did mention that we have a number of divisions that focus on things like egg freezing and sperm freezing, focusing on different areas of reproductive health. This is actually the one that we started first because it focused on a community that really had a need for a program that brought all of the features of IVF and surrogacy together for a same-sex couple which was going to need to utilize all of those things. So the Intended Father Center was a program that we curated based upon our experience in IVF and surrogacy for more than 30 years, and through our experience in working with a number of agencies, a number of other referring partnerships throughout not just the United States, but throughout the world, with whom we've built a great collaboration over the years. Another great thing about this opportunity today to speak to you for a few minutes is that it gives you the opportunity to learn a little bit about who we are, because each of us that are here at this conference have a different role. I'm from a clinical and LGBT outreach perspective. Cindy is the financial coordinator for all of our international and same-sex couples. You may have a question that's very clinical. You'll know to come to me or to our laboratory director, Colleen Wagner Coughlin, who's also here. If you have a more finance-related question, Cindy's the person to go to. Cindy's been doing this almost as long as I've been alive, so if there's a question, I had to throw it out there. I'm sorry.
This is true.
But we're really proud of what we've built because we know that it works. One of the things that's most gratifying about the work that we do is that the referrals that we get are often from other patients, not from agencies, not from clinics, from other patients who have gone through and said, you know what, we did this, it was the right choice. And that's gratifying to hear, but it's also something that gives us an indication that we're doing it right. And we really appreciate the feedback that we've gotten over the years, and we appreciate having people come to us and give us that confirmation that what we're doing is right. I'm going to let Cindy talk briefly about the financial process because I'm sure that's probably one of the bigger things that you're worrying about right now. It'll be brief, but again, I hope that you'll take an opportunity to come and speak with us afterwards and you'll know a little bit more about her and about what she can help you with.
I spoke to several of you this morning, I believe. There's a lot of information today. We have a lot of moving parts in this process, as I told some of you before, because that's the best way to understand it. Your agency, your donor agency, the legal fees, your surrogate agency, and right in the middle is that clinical piece that we're the clinical piece. In all these years that I've been doing this, over 30 years, dating myself, as Rob just dated me anyway.
You're dating me.
I'm dated. I've been doing financial coordination for about 30 years in the Chicagoland area for this type of service. I'm happy to help guide you through the process because there's a lot of questions you're going to have. Feel free to contact me. Thank you very much. Have a good day and starting your journey.
I want to add something. I'm going out of order a little bit.
That's okay.
But Dr. Kaplan, who you're going to talk to in a minute, and Rob, they know this is what I tend to do, which for a reason. So I want to clarify two things. Number one, yes, she's been a financial coordinator for about 30 years, but 30 years ago, Dr. Kaplan was still in his residency and then his fellowship and things. My point is, not hopping around all different places. She's been Dr. Brian Kaplan's financial coordinator the entire length of time. The reason we built this program, and the reason we really built all of our programs, is that we already do a lot of it before we develop a program. A program is built to define it better and solve problems that need to be solved. For example, putting packages together, because you guys don't like being nickel and dimed. I don't know why, but I'm kidding, meaning in terms of adding prices and prices. Like you want to know all your prices up front. Things that don't exist sometimes. So, but I want to clarify, she's been doing this within a practice that has been well ahead of everyone else with third party as soon as it became available, mainly because of our primary physician that we work with, Dr. Kaplan. Second thing, the reason why do we keep having international on everything? That's really important for me to explain to you. Not because that's our goal now moving forward. It's actually the opposite. We were already treating many same-sex male couples for years, even before we passed the.
2005 surrogacy.
Well, no, the thing here in Chicago where you guys, all
yeah.
these things. We were always treating and doing this with international couples. And that's where we said, why? And then we were treating men from New York and men from California because programs existed out there and they were comparing programs, looking at cost. They were coming here to Chicago for Dr. Kaplan and our program for this. I said, why aren't we doing this more in our own, where we live? And that's why we talked to Ron and said, you guys have to come to Chicago to help, help raise awareness, all these other things. But the international piece is still on for this program for a lot of our materials because that is still a large part of the those patients that we treat for this. And so we just from the, because I don't want to redo everything, it still has all of that, but that's why we have that international piece, but it is all, pretty much the same. So those are two things I want to clarify, and then ask Dr. Kaplan to come up. You could do your introduction the way, however you would do
I just want to
that.
say one more thing. We have 3 options that we put together.
Yes.
The bundle, streamline and bundles the most common services. We offer 2 types of shared risk type of program. But when you're ready to start the process, please contact me. I'm happy to walk you through it because there's a lot of moving parts and you really have to understand what you're going to do and where you're going to go with it. But we also work with men having babies, and if you qualify for the GPAP, we offer discounts on all 3 of our programs. Okay? Thank you.
And one of the things, just to piggyback off of what both Cindy and Colleen said, is that the packages that we created come from our experience of knowing what couples in this situation really need. And one of the things that we found that is important for couples to have as part of any package price, but we think is also what sets us apart from other organizations, is that our packages are inclusive of the medication. Oftentimes when you're looking at the comparisons between costs, between programs, the sticker prices all look very similar. Everybody's operating in the same thing. We all come to the same conferences. We're all reading the same materials. But one thing that we offer that many other programs don't is that that medication piece for your donor and for your surrogate. And that's something that people are often surprised about when they sign up with another clinic and they get the package and they have all the information, and then all of a sudden there are these additional costs. And the medication can be quite expensive, as I'm sure you understand. So that's something to really think about. My encouragement to you is, whether you're looking at our program or looking at another program or looking at all the programs, is to really be mindful of what exactly does this include. Is medication one of those things that's included in the package? And if not, is there an offset somewhere else? Is there a cost savings somewhere else where it balances out to be the same? My guess would be probably not, but those are questions that you should ask yourself. So ultimately, I hope that we'll continue the conversation after this, but before we adjourn, I did want to give our physician an opportunity just to come up and say hello and introduce himself. This is Dr. Brian Kaplan, with whom we have had a very long-standing relationship. We're extremely proud to work with him, not only because of his expertise as a reproductive endocrinologist, but because his reputation it transcends Chicago, it transcends Illinois, it transcends the United States. He's more famous other places, I think, than he is here, and he's pretty famous here. So we're delighted to introduce him to you, so I'll allow him to say a few words.
Thank you, guys. I'm just going to spend a few minutes. It's pretty overwhelming. If I was you guys, sitting here with everybody trying to sell something. And it's an overwhelming process, as you can see. So I think you're going to do well wherever you go here. I mean, they're all solid positions. Labs are solid. You're doing a donor reg, that's our best population. You're doing a young 24-year-old. You're doing a surrogate who's proven. So at the end of the day, I think you can go home thinking that if you make this decision, whatever path you take, whoever you take it with, it's going to be, you've got a very good chance of taking home your dream. For me, this is very self-satisfying because I've done IVF for over 28 years, and this market, the same-sex male community, female community has blossomed. From its infancy, I've been doing it for over 20 years. So to see the growth and the number of people here today is worth coming just for a few minutes up here today. It really is. So I'm happy to answer any medical questions you may have. The experience is there. We have from donor reg, it's in the thousands of babies, surrogacy in the thousands. Doesn't mean because we're bigger it's better, but we do have that experience. We have a consistency, same personnel as Colleen said for over 28 years. So I think that's an important factor. But I wish you all luck. I think you do really well, no matter what. And I think it's amazing thing that you do. Thanks, guys.
How important is it to have a fertility clinic close by on the grounds where you live? Because we're in West Virginia, and I'm not sure that there's one. I mean, maybe Pittsburgh, but other than that, there's nothing like that.
I think it's more personal. If you feel comfortable, because sometimes when you're far away, you feel you're out of the whole thing, and you feel distance is a problem. But today with communication where you have Skype, continual consultations, I think it's becoming almost the norm. So a lot of I would say that half our patients are not from the US. So Virginia, yes, it's a little bit of a distance, but compared to Barcelona or London, it's relatively close. I think as long as you're comfortable with that, pick the practice you like, the state you want to do it in, the agency you want to work with. I don't think it's a critical factor at all. But all the major cities have birth centers. New York, Los Angeles. I mean, to stand here from Chicago and think we're the greatest, that's ridiculous.
I would add though, if you're interested in using genetic testing with the embryos, which that's a whole separate conversation, but if it is something that you do want to use, you do need to make sure that you work with a clinic that already does a lot of genetic testing on embryos, okay? So that's how each of the components pick because it's appropriate or it's in line with what you're hoping to do.
Could you spend a couple minutes just talking about single versus double embryo transfer in terms of success rates, and then also the implications of that pregnancy risk benefit?
A very important question. And I've struggled with that my whole career because when we first started in this technology, we weren't as good at this. So we had to put in 2 and 3 embryos to get the success rate that the consumer was satisfied with. Today, with the evolution of the technology, we become much better at it. The results are excellent. So yes, if you put in 2 embryos, I believe you have a higher chance of pregnancy. I mean, mathematically, it makes sense. The problem is if both stick, a twin pregnancy is much more high risk. And you want a healthy baby. So I'd rather sit with a patient where it's sad and hasn't worked after putting in 1 embryo than having twins with a disaster later on in the pregnancy. Because you're sad for a few weeks when that 1 embryo doesn't work. If something goes wrong with the twins, that's forever. That's the rest of your life. You have to deal with that. So we're concerned about not just getting pregnant, but taking home a healthy baby. That's the bottom line. So you have a better chance of taking home a healthy baby with 1 than there is with 2. But it is a double-edged because if you want to force it and put in 2, you'll have a high success rate. So what we found is, and it all depends on quality of the embryos, etc. You're going to hear numbers which are almost impossible. Someone will tell you 1 embryo, 85% chance. That's not, the human being doesn't work that well. So it's like someone coming to you, I don't know what field you're in, and telling you they can earn 30% a year for the rest of your life. When it's that high, you start wondering. So I would tell you if you put in 1 embryo, you're going to get about a 65% chance, 2 embryos, about 75. So it doesn't increase dramatically. That's a statistical increase. But your twin rate could be 1 in 3. That's high. Normal twin rates are 1%, so you're going up to 30 to 40%. So we would prefer putting in 1 at a time. Now, if you look at what we call the cumulative pregnancy rate, over time, the same number of people will get pregnant. So we do 2 or 1, and then 1, you'd rather do, I would advise to do 1 at a time. It just might take a little longer, but it's safer.
It's also, you have to look at how many embryos you have to work with. And you have to remember that even with gestational carriers, some cycles are not going to be their best cycles. So let's say we have two dads and one person only has 1 embryo, 1 shot, and the other potential dad has 3, right? So the way to come up with, to manage your risks, because if it doesn't work, you don't have another chance with that embryo. So there are ways to optimize where I think you can get your chances a little higher than what, Dr. Kaplan gave a general statistic there, right? Because didn't talk about was PGS done on that embryo or not. Other things, he's giving you a general case. You always want to look at your individual chances. Was it a donor that had gone through before? Is it PGD embryo? All these other things to really get your best overall statistic. And you, not only to just go with one embryo to have a healthy pregnancy, but you're also kind of spreading your risk. If you only have one embryo to work with, or two embryos, it would be better probably to spread your risk out over 2 transfers in case that cycle for that gestational carrier isn't going to work. Doesn't matter how many embryos you put in. Something is not optimized. So it's also a way of, spreading your risk out that way too.
But PGS is an important factor.
Yes.
And a lot of surrogates prefer embryos that have been tested. Then you don't have to go into the details about what happens if it's an abnormal pregnancy, if it's down. She might not want to reduce that pregnancy. So you go into that whole, I don't say conflict, but it's all